Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Zenput Form Builder training. My name is Nina Donovan, and I'll be leading today's webinar. We will go ahead and get started, but just a little bit of housekeeping here. We are going to mute everyone on the line. At the end of our session, we will allow time for questions. Within the GoToWebinar control panel, there is a chat function where you can ask your questions, and then we'll go through those as time allows. So we'll go ahead and get started. Okay. So with me today, I have our customer success team, Whitney Priest, Marcus Andren, who will be helping with the Q&A portion of today's webinar, Evan Baker, Jacqueline Belcher, myself, and Nick Hokinson. The agenda for today, we're going to be going through the form builder. So what does that mean? That means actually building a form, talking about the different form field types, going through just the various options that we have, talking a little bit about scoring triggers. So how do you route your forms to different people within your organization, our configuration settings, and then how to distribute your form. We'll talk a little bit about use cases, best practices, and then again, Q&A at the end. So let's go ahead and jump in. This is going to be live, so we're not going to go through a deck here. We're going to go through the actual form builder. So within your Zenput account, in the left menu, there is a Forms button. So if you click that, you will get taken to your active forms list. On the right-hand side, there is a New Form button. If you click that, you get a pop-up window. So this is where you get started to create a new form. You can start a form from scratch by clicking Blank Form. If your company is part of a brand, you will see a brand hub that you can click into and see various forms that have been shared within your brand. And then over on the right-hand side, there's an Upload Form button. So this one's pretty neat because let's say you don't have the time to create your forms from scratch. You can ask our support team to do that for you. So you'll simply click the Upload Form button, choose the Browse button here, and you can upload your form in a doc, PDF, or Excel format. Just make sure if it's Excel, it's XLSX. It's very important. And then down at the bottom, you can add any notes or comments. So for example, if you'd like your form to be set up with all yes/no questions, all of those questions required, maybe you want some of those questions to have dependent photo fields when a question is answered no. So you can add in all of that detail for the support team within this notes comments box, and then click upload. Once you click upload, you will receive an email confirming the support team received your form. And then once the form is created and ready for your review, you'll get a second email. So that'll be a big time saver. Okay, so we're just going to X out here and we're going to create a form from scratch. So let's click Blank Form. And now up at the top, this is a function that's really important when you're creating new forms. It's categorizing your forms. So this yellow message is not an error. It is letting you know that you need to take an action. So it's saying changes will not be saved within this form until you choose a form template category. So let's have that be the first thing that we do. We're going to click the X here. And our list of categories, these are static categories. For most of our customers, these options fit well. If you happen to have any other requests, you can let your CSM know. But we'll just choose operations for now. This form that we're going to create will fall into the operations category. Then we'll give our form a name. So let's call this Form Builder Training. And you'll notice over here in the top right-hand corner, pay attention here. It's going to say Saving Changes, and it'll let you know when your form's done being saved. So I'm going to click Away, and we see it says saving very, very fast, and now all changes saved. You'll notice as I work through the form builder that this automatically saves as we go along. So you'll want to make sure that you pay attention to that before you navigate away. Just keep that in mind to make sure everything gets saved here. Now, you may wonder why this location field is automatically in your form. We at Zenput highly, highly recommend including a location field in your forms and making that location field required. Reason being, when you want to route forms based on your hierarchy, when you want to run reports and filter by location, you really need to have this field in your form. You can change the name by simply clicking on the field in this middle section. You'll notice on the right-hand side, location question appeared, and I can change this. Let's say I want it to say store number. I can change that, and then I can check this box here to make the field required. You'll see here there's now a red asterisk that appears, letting me know that that is a required field. So over on the right-hand side, while we have this exposed, I'm going to touch on a couple options here. So over underneath the question label, the store number and the required options, we have instructions. So as you build your forms, you may want to include some sort of instructions, whether it's text or maybe a photo for your users who are filling out the form. Okay, so you can type anything that you like within this instructions field that is specific to this question. And then you can attach media. So you can attach a photo to go along with your instructions. And once you do that, you can even check this box here. I know it's a little hard to see because it's in gray, but it says show instructions and or image by default. You could check that box so that these instructions automatically appear when your user's working on the form. So if I type in, this is your store, you'll see that that checkbox now is available for me to select, and now I can see the text here. So if I check that box, now this is your store will appear at the bottom of the field on the form itself. So let's take a look at the different form, the field options that we have. They live on the left-hand side here, and we have them organized by layout, general questions, media, and then some advanced options. So layout is our first, and we're going to go through several of these options. Not all of them, but we'll go through several to give you an idea of how to add these to your form, how to remove them, etc. So couple options. If you want to include a field in your form, you can click on the field type and it will automatically add that field to your form. Alternatively, you could drag the field and drop it wherever you like within your form. Okay, so let's say we changed our mind and we didn't mean to add a second section here. We can simply click this trash can icon and remove it. Okay, next layout option are instructions. So let's say you have a section, let's call it front of house. And let's say you want an instructions field for that section. You can just tap on the instructions here. It'll automatically add that field to the bottom of your form builder, right below your section. And you can add your instructions within the instructions field box. And similar to how you add media for individual fields within an instruction field, you can do that for this instructions field type. So maybe you have some specific instructions for your front of house, what the user should be looking at, what they should be doing before they even start answering some questions. So let's look at the general questions. Most common are yes/no questions. We can add one of those. Multiple choice is very common. Text fields, number fields. You can add dates and even times to your forms. Just keep in mind within Zenput, we're automatically tracking the user and the day and time that a form is submitted. So you don't have to ask the user to input that additional information. but maybe you'll have a reason to ask that. But just keep in mind, we are tracking that within our reporting. We will talk about photos in just a minute. Signature is where you can have your users sign different types of forms. So let's say they're going through some onboarding forms. Maybe there is a training form or an incident report that you need a signature. You can actually have somebody sign a form. And then this document type. Let's talk about these different fields here. We're going to start with yes, no. So yes, no here, I'm just going to type in an example, wipe the counters, and we'll make the field required. Down below, for all yes, no question types, you can allow NAs, okay? So there is a checkbox. By default, it is not checked. If you'd like to allow NAs, you can by checking the box. And you'll see here down below, the label is now visible and it's going to give a neutral response. So it will be an available option for your user, but it's not neither a pass nor a fail. By default, we're giving you a yes, no label, but we're going to evaluate all yeses by default as a passing answer and a no response as a failing answer. If we click the drop downs, we can change all of that and customize it to how we want the form to work. So do know that you can change the defaults that we have set up. And we've touched on this for those of you that have joined some of our prior webinars. You can create dependent questions based on how a question is answered. So let's say we want a photo anytime this user answers no within a form for this question. So when they answer no, that means this question's failing. So we're going to leave that as the default. And then let's say we want a photo. So when I checked this box, this drop field section automatically appeared. Now I can take my photo field and drag it to appear right below the wipe the counters question. If I move the field just outside and it's not directly below the question, you'll notice the drop field here box kind of moves. So see how it goes back and forth? So just make sure when you're dropping your fields, you're dropping them exactly where you'd like them to be. And then from there, you could require this question. Next up, we'll talk about multiple choice. So you can allow multiple responses, multiple answers. So let's say you have a user auditing a different section or a section of your location, and you want to give them the ability to answer with more than one response. You can check this allow multiple answers checkbox. By default, we are going to have multiple choice, just say yes, no, and maybe. You can change all of this. So to do that, let's say we wanted to get rid of this maybe. We can click this X and it goes away. Let's say we changed our mind and we want to add it back. We can click this blue plus sign and type maybe. Or if we have a big list of multiple choice items, we can copy paste those into this options box under advanced edit. I could also type 2, I can just keep going. Okay, and then I can save. And automatically these fields will update. So that advanced edit link is really helpful when you have a long list of multiple choice answers. And then you can also enable dependent questions on multiple choice fields. You can do this for a lot of our different question types. So once you check the box, you'll notice the drop field here section appears. And then we can say when we want this to happen. So for example, whenever the user answers the sample, we want them to give us an explanation as to why they answered the question that way. But maybe we want that to be optional. You don't have to choose the require box. Okay, text field's pretty straightforward. The user is going to be able to input whatever information you need, similar to how I said above, explain why, they'll be able to type in comments and notes and details as to what they were looking at, what happened, etc. Number field, pretty straightforward, capturing your numbers. Maybe there is a count that someone's doing. We'll talk about scoring in a little bit, but an example of one of our more complex formulas that you can create, you could do a cash audit financial form with using Zenput. So within the form builder, maybe you would have some number fields where a user is calculating different, maybe the register. They're tabulating and figuring out how much funds are in the registers. And then based on those numbers that they've added, we can create formulas to calculate totals and go through all of that auditing here within Zenput. Next up is signature. So I touched on this a little bit at the beginning. So for any of your forms, if you'd like to ensure that the person who you're assigning the form to is actually completing it, or maybe you have an incident report and you need a store manager to sign along with the actual employee or what have you, you can actually have all of those signatures captured here in Zenput. And one of our newer fields that we talked about in one of our recent webinars is this document field. This is where users can upload, let's say, a PDF and attach it to the form submission. So this is a neat field, new question type that you can include here. The user will be able to upload a PDF doc or an Excel file. All right. So next here we'll go to, I talked about score a little bit. We're not going to go into scoring in heavy detail here, but just keep in mind that you can score your forms. So some customers like to do this when they want to see, maybe they'd have 10 yes/no questions, and this is a very basic example, but where each yes is equal to 1 point. So out of 100%, if 9 of the questions were answered yes, then that form would be scored 90%. So you could do it as simple as that, or you can score in a more complex way using that cash audit example, really setting up some advanced customized formulas to do that calculation for your users instead of having them calculate outside of Zenput, manually keying in numbers, or you having to report on their form submissions and then calculate later. So if you have questions on scoring, your CSM is more than happy to chat with you about that and even help with the setup. So feel free to reach out and they will be able to help you. So next here, we're going to go to triggers in this middle menu. So when I click on triggers, we're going to talk a little bit of how to set up your routing for your form submissions. So on the left-hand side, you may want to send a copy of the form to the person who filled it out. To do that, you would check Form Submitter. If you'd want to send a copy to the location, you could check the location email. This is going to look to the email address field within the location record. So you'd want to make sure that you have your email addresses populated within each location. It's on the location screen in the left menu when we're not in the form builder. And then another option here is Dropbox. So you can, if you have a Dropbox account, the owner of the Zenput account can activate the Dropbox integration, which means when you check the Dropbox box here within your forms, you can have forms automatically sent to a Dropbox folder. So let's say you don't want to have to come in here, download your PDFs, have everything routed automatically. So it'll be a big time saver. Let's say that you want to send this form to some other people outside of the submitter or the location. Right here is where you do it. Also send to. You can send to a role, which may be a supervisor. It may be the CEO of the company. We'll use those as two examples. So if I choose role, the system is going to look to your hierarchy. So let's use the supervisor as an example. If the store fills this form out and you want this form to automatically go to that one supervisor, you will choose role here and then choose the supervisor within the drop-down list. So we'll just choose district manager here. And now the system, anytime this form is submitted by the store, this form submission would go to that store's district manager. You can add as many report recipients as you like. Just click this blue plus sign and continue with your roles, users, or email addresses. For users, let's say we want to send a copy of this form to David every time this form is submitted, regardless of the hierarchy. So this may be someone in operations, someone at the head office, maybe an HR person. They will get every form submission. And then if you want to send an email to, or this form submission to an email, someone who doesn't have a Zenput account, you can choose email and then type their email address in the box. So if none of that meets your needs, you can create triggers, which are additional alerts where your forms are being routed, and even follow-up tasks. So if you want for, let's say a question is answered with a no and you want to assign a corrective action to your store, you can set all of that up here within Create Trigger. We're not going to go into this section today. We did have a webinar earlier this year covering triggers. So if you have any questions on that, the recording is available, or your CSM would be happy to take you through that. Next screen here is our configure screen. And there's some really good options here. If your organization has the ability to use private forms, you will see this make this form private box. If you don't know about private forms, I encourage you to ask your customer success manager, and you guys can talk about that from there. The next box here is allowing admins in your company to edit this template. When you create forms, by default, this checkbox is not checked. So if you have multiple admins in your company and you want other people to be able to edit your forms, do come and check this box. And keep in mind, if you do have our support team create forms for you, they will not check this box by default. So you would need to come to the configure screen and check the box. Next up is hide unanswered questions when exporting individual submissions. So if you have multiple questions that are not required, that you do not want exposed within the PDF when the form is submitted, the final version, you can check this box and the system will automatically hide those unanswered questions. Next checkbox is the allow user to submit this form at any location. This may come into play when you would like users to complete the form outside of the hierarchy. And you could check this box. So regardless of where they fall in your hierarchy, let's say someone is covering for someone else, maybe at the district manager level, area manager level, you could have this checkbox checked and allow that district manager to go and complete forms for another district manager. Next, within the mobile section, this is related to the mobile app only. So allow users to copy from previously submitted forms is an option. Do not allow users to upload photos from their photo gallery. So most of you know within our forms, we give the option to choose a photo for photo fields, to choose a photo from the gallery or take the photo right there on the spot from the camera. If you don't want users choosing from the photo gallery, you'll want to come into your form template and check this box. And the only option they'll have is to take the picture using their camera. And the final option is show previous answers when yes, no fields are answered no. This checkbox is very powerful. especially for your users in the field. But what this does when you have yes/no questions in your form is it will show the last 5 answers that were submitted for the form. So let's use our example of wipe the counters. If the last 5 times this question was answered no, we will show you the dates and we'll show you a red X showing that the last 5 times that the counters were not wiped. So rather than continuing with the form, maybe it's a good idea to stop there and figure out why that question is continuing to be answered no, because maybe there's a training opportunity that can be resolved right then and there. And then our final screen is our distribute screen. On the left-hand side, you can create a project for this form right within the form, okay? So you'd come and click create project and then go in to build whether this is a one-time project, a recurring project. You can create your project right here. And then distribute on the non-recurring forms. So to manage access for this form, let's say this is an incident report. This is not a form that's going to recur. It's not going to happen on a daily basis, we hope. It's not going to be something that we're going to assign out. This is something that's filled out when something happens. So you can make this form available to your users by inputting their name. You can distribute this by role or even by team. You can also share it across the entire company. So all you would do is type in, like you can see here, team, all Zenput. So if I choose that, this form will automatically get shared with every user of this company. They'll get a notification letting them know a new form has been shared with them. And then you can manage the permission level over on the right-hand side. So let's add a bakery here. So we can see the bakery has some different options than the admin. So an admin can edit all submissions, whereas this bakery, which is most likely a submitter, can only view own submissions by default, but we can change that. We could change to view all submissions, they could edit their submissions, and they can edit all. So definitely check your preferences here and how you'd like that set. You can override our defaults. Now in the top right-hand corner, we can preview our form by clicking the preview form button, and we can see all those beautiful fields that we added. So in the top, we see our store number, we see our instructions, we can see that the fields required with our red asterisk, we can see our new section with our instructions field, our yes/no question with our NA response, multiple choice options, along with our text field, number field, and signature. So signature is pretty cool because we can come here and sign. And then we see the signature displayed there. And then this is where the user would come to add their document and then submit the form when they're done. The last piece is export form. So we had received a lot of requests from various customers asking for a way to see their form in a printout, but not filled out. And so we added this functionality some time ago where you can export a blank form template. So if I click export form, it would give me a blank version of this whole screen. And that's really helpful when you have those larger forms, lots of sections, lots of questions going on where you may want to double check yourself. You can see it on pen and paper, but usually the preview form is the best place to start. So I think we've covered everything, so we can open it up to Q&A here.
Perfect. Hey guys, this is Marcus, just going to help Nina out managing the questions that came in. We had a couple come in during the webinar, but just as a reminder, if you have any questions to ask before we get off the line here, just use your GoToWebinar control panel and you should see a question box and you can type that in there and we'll get to it right now. So first off, we had a quick question here. Can I include a picture as instructions?
Yes, absolutely. So within your question, you can come in and so back to the wipe the counters example, this attach media button, this is where you can upload a photo and show what that should look like when the user wipes the counter. So you would just come in, attach media, and once you do that, you would see it underneath the instructions field here.
Okay, next, how long does it take for changes to go into effect at my stores?
Great question. So this one's really key. So the forms that you have in your account are live. So once you've deployed them, I'm going to go back to the form screen. So these are all of your active forms. Okay. We don't keep versions per se. So when you make an edit, and to do that, you would click this pencil icon. When you make changes to a form, those go into effect automatically. So if I click this pencil icon and I make a change to this form and I see that changes saved happen, the next time a user opens that form, they're going to see your changes. So keep that in mind. If you want to overhaul a form, we recommend making a copy of it. So you would do that by coming here and clicking these three little dots and then copying the form. You can make your edits there and then deploy the new version once it's finalized and archive the old version. So definitely keep in mind that any changes you make to a form are live and you can't reverse them.
Okay, and then one more question here. How would I delete a form if I no longer need it?
Okay, perfect. So on this screen here, we can archive a form. When you click archive, and let's go into the form that we built. Okay, so this is my form builder training. I'm going to click the three dots and I'm going to archive this form. Zenput's going to ask me if I'm sure and I'll say okay. I'll get a success notification letting me know the form's been archived. Let's say we did that by mistake. On this status box here, there's a drop down so you can toggle between your active and archived forms. If we click archived here, there's my archived form. If I am the person who built the form, I can reactivate it by clicking this reactivate button.
Okay. I think this one's just double checking something you mentioned. So under the triggers for sending an email, if we select role and then area supervisor, for example, would it only go to that location supervisor or all supervisors?
Right, so right here under the all send to, if we choose role district manager, this form when it gets submitted by a store would get sent to the one district manager that is responsible for that store based on how you have your hierarchy set up. So your hierarchy, if you wanted to double check that, is on the left-hand side here. You would go into your hierarchy and that's how you would see how everything would be routed.
All right, perfect. So we had a couple of other questions come in that are going to be specific to the individual company. Your CSM will follow up with you right after the webinar to make sure you get answers to that. But yeah, I think that's it.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. We hope that was helpful. As I mentioned, please reach out to your customer success manager with any questions you have. We are more than happy to help you build your forms, work on formulas, and get you guys in a good spot. So thanks again for joining. Hope you have a good rest of your day.